Good morning and welcome to Has God Heard From You Today? So glad you joined us. Call someone and let them know Has God Heard From You Today is on the air, where we spread the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more, and listening. And we're so happy to have Mr. Brad Crates with us today.
Thank you.
Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And I met Brad during the play. We did an interview on Pastor Blackshear. And what was the name of the play?
That's my wife.
That's my wife. And it was, I heard, I couldn't go because my sister was ill, but I heard it was a very good play.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
The growth of everybody that was associated, involved with that entire show, it was exponential.
Yeah, so Pastor Blackshear, good job. We're looking forward to the next airing of it. So when I met Brad, it was just something about you, Brad, and I gave you my card and just extended the invitation that whenever you want to tell your testimony, you would be welcomed. And then maybe, 3-4 weeks later, or a month, I'm not sure, 3 weeks?
A couple weeks. Kind of want to think about that and decide if that was something that God wanted me to do or if I wanted to do in conjunction with him. So
I love that. Meaning you were seeking him to see if he wants you to do it. And you know what we do on this program? We spread the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more, and listening. And I have to stress that because that's what he has me out here doing. More people need to just tune into him, So we are going to see and hear, and we're ready for whatever God has placed on your heart. We're ready for you now.
thank you. Glad to be here once again. It's funny, I don't do this. Actually, I don't think I've ever really witnessed or given testimony before. So it's obviously been building, to say the least.
Let me interrupt you just a minute. He told me he was shy. He told me he was shy,
well, now,
and I'm going like, shy? Okay.
I tend to cover it with my hair, so that tends to help a little bit. But and you'd be surprised, but a lot of actors are shy. Mm-hmm. A lot of performers are, because certain actors, including myself, tend to be more comfortable in front of 100 people than one-on-one. Okay. So this will be fun, to say the least. But yeah, I've had a very interesting past, and not necessarily telling the whole thing.
Right.
But you asked me before we started taping if I was a pastor, and I said no. But the irony is, when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, that's what I wanted to be.
Wow. Okay.
And I get kind of emotional here and there, so bear with me. But
hey, we praise him. We get emotional. We just let the Holy Spirit have his way. Yeah.
But the irony is, I was very blessed to go to, I guess, because I was born and raised in Denver, and I went to Episcopal Church, which is what a lot of people call Catholic Light. But it had a Southern Baptist feel.
Okay.
And I say I was blessed because growing up, I saw color, but I embraced it. Our church was 50-50.
Okay.
And had a great choir, organist, and you and I were talking before, being in the choir.
Yeah.
One of the first influential people that I had met growing up, and phenomenal man, and I'm proud to, I'm doing some research lately, a guy by the name of Don Lewis.
Okay.
And I encourage you and the viewers to Google him.
Don Lewis?
Don Lewis.
Okay.
He, I believe he grew up in Ohio.
Okay.
But this man had the power. He was essentially a computer genius before computers were commonplace. And he was able to take a Moog synthesizer and a Hammond X77 organ, tear them apart, build them up from scratch, and then go about redesigning it so he can combine choir voices, his voice, the organ, and literally when he played, you could hear 30 people, and it was himself and his instruments.
Okay.
Well, as the synthesizer generation grew, there was a lot of backlash because a lot of people felt that he wasn't able to, people were not getting the jobs or weren't able to sing in choirs and that type of thing. And The reason I bring all that up is there's been a documentary that's been completed
Okay.
and we're in the process of getting funding, and it's called The Ballad of Don Lewis. And you can Google it, and
Okay.
you can feel God's
Forever.
word coming through him. And he's very shy too. There's certain YouTube clips that he's like a little kid.
Okay.
And so that was one of my first instances of people that I was influenced by. I come from what we used to call a broken home. My mother and I moved in with my grandparents and started attending that church in the Park Hill area. And that was my first exposure to somebody in entertainment, man of color. And the reason that's significant, hopefully I'll reveal in a couple of minutes, the other influential gentleman during that time was the reverend for that church, Father Marion Hammond.
Yeah.
And he and his wife went to college with my mother. And he was kind of a mellow hippie type and brought that church. I mean, there was so much love every single Sunday. And when I was young, that's what I needed right then, because I didn't have, other than my grandfather, I didn't have a lot of male influence in my life at the time. So those two individuals kind of were leading me at the, age, wisdom age of 7 to be a pastor. As I got older, those things changed, but the will and the desire to influence people in my, not necessarily limited, but my own perspective, to provide people, a vision as to we should get along and we should be unified.
Yes.
So those were two individuals. And as I got older, I remember it was a weekday during the summer in 1975. They had just changed, there was a couple times during forced segregation, or forced integration rather, that they'd changed the lines for the high schools and junior high schools. And they literally moved it 1/2 street. So it changed where I was going to go to high school. And the reason I say that, one of my friends, we called ourselves the Three Musketeers. We would play pool, ping pong, in one of my friend's basements. And an album came out, and they said, "Dude, you got to hear this." I go, "What is it?" He goes, "I'm not going to tell you who does it. I just want you to listen." Put it on the turntable, and it was the first time in my entire life I ever heard "Shining Star" by Earth, Wind & Fire. And to say, people say, "This song changed my life," and people roll their eyes, but it was the beginning of a really, really long, interesting, wayward, off the beaten track, back on track life. And it's, I go back to that as when I went, you need to do something important with your life. But, God, at that age, I was probably 12, 13, didn't tell me what it was.
So you were 12 or 13, and come on,
And, being from a broken home, it's like, who am I going to, what am I going to be?
But and look at your mindset at that age. 7, 12, 13.
I was way too old and way too serious on certain levels at 13. But that goes with, history and where you grow up and how you grow up. And at that time, another influential gentleman in my life was a Denver police officer by the name of Charles Johnson, African American. And at that time, because we're talking the 70s, there was a lot of civil unrest for obvious reasons. He was assigned to be the overnight security detail for Mayor William McNichols, who happened to live right around the corner from my house. And my best friend lived catty corner from the mayor's house. So literally we had our own security force. We could play in the summer till 11 o'clock at night when we didn't have school the next morning, and we had our own, guy watching over us. I'm sure God had something to do with that. But seeing patterns of people that are not like me, exposing me to a lot more than I could see by myself. And through that, and meeting him, he was now African American, going to DU Law School, and a police officer. One of the funniest men I've ever met. And then I kind of stuck out with my musical taste in college, particularly in the early 80s, late 70s. But my entire life, I really took what Maurice White, the founder of Earth, Wind & Fire's message has always been: unity, happy, look above, look inside. Not differences, uniqueness, but at the same time a community.
That's good.
And as a matter of fact, I was, as I started kind of seeing what I wanted to do, or what I thought I wanted to do, what God wanted me to do, started taking, got serious in entertainment, started writing some songs in high school.
Oh, really?
Took an audio engineering class.
Okay. We're going to come back with Mr. Crates on the song Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know my mind, that's been back so long, I'm trying to think of the words to it. We're going to come right back. It's so good to have you here. We're just listening.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration.
An innovator.
To be a teacher. Be my teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you. I dare you. I dare you. I'm waiting.
We're going to get right back with Brad, who has been telling us some of the people who has influenced his life. And when we went off the air, welcome back. When we went off the air, I was trying to remember some of the words, the earth, wind, and fire. And don't act like you all don't know earth, wind, and fire. But what were those words that you said kind of stood out in your mind? It was just ones you just
the
named.
end, particularly where on Shining Star, where it goes to the acapella ending, which was very unique for
I
music
remember that
back then,
ending.
particularly with a choir sound for pop and urban radio. You're a shining star for you to be what your life can truly be.
Okay, yeah.
And it's, you hear it, it sounds trite, cliched, but there's a reason we have cliches, because they're valid.
Okay, okay. So we're going to get right back to you because I say it all the time goes really fast, so we're back.
Absolutely. Before the break, I was talking about taking audio engineering.
Right,
and,
right.
you know, as we were talking today, I don't even think I knew until today as to why certain things have happened. And you tend to bring people, certain people in your life, it brings clarity. You may not be with them in their life moving forward, but they come into your life for a reason.
Yes.
And if you don't pay attention, you're gonna have some regret about it and may not be able to move to the next step you're supposed to.
That's good.
And I was taking an audio engineering class, and I was sitting there, and some other artists besides Earth, Wind, Fire inspired me to do that. Wrote some lyrics. Had a girlfriend that I was dating at the time that she put the music together. We recorded in the recording studio at a career education center in Denver, and we were just sitting reading through the book and studying for a pop quiz exam.
Yeah.
And the assistant teacher, I don't even know why he said it, but he said, I was an assistant engineer on That's the Way of the World.
That's the way of the world.
My head popped up. I'm like, I think we need to have a talk.
Because that's the way of the world. That's a Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, Fire. Well, that Shining Star was on it.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much
okay.
what put them into the stratosphere as
Right.
far as popularity and
So
notoriety.
your teacher was affiliated with that.
He had, and a lot of people don't know that album was recorded in Colorado.
Okay.
It was recorded in a place called Caribou Ranch, which has had everybody from Michael Jackson to Joe Walsh to America, Chicago. And he said, yeah, I was an assistant engineer on that album. I said, well, tell me a story.
Yeah.
And the only one he came up with that day was, he said when they all arrived, they had understood them because it was their first time being there, because they had also done Open Our Eyes as well, the previous album. And he said, well, we were told that they were all vegetarians, and they were Zen Buddhists. Some of that true, half the Christian with Zen Buddhist leanings, if you will. And so the staff at the ranch prepared a 20, 30 person vegan meal. And the guys come in straight out of Los Angeles off the plane, and they look back at each other and say, where's the nearest McDonald's?
So much for that, yeah.
Little levity there. So they had to drive them literally, because it was in a place called Netherland, Colorado, which is 20, 30 miles from Boulder in the mountains. And Shining Star, actually, he was taking a walk, Maurice White, on the ranch, and looked up and saw the stars, the Colorado sky, and came up with probably one of the more famous songs in the last 50 years of music. So that was kind of revealing to me. And then when I went to college, I went into television and radio, film, got my degree in journalism. So I started down that route after college. And I was an intern at the CBS affiliate in college. And Earth, Wind & Fire was in Denver on my 21st birthday that weekend.
Okay.
And I said, let's do an interview, because 3 of the guys from the band, Philip Bailey, Larry Dunn, and Andrew Woolfolk, all went to my mother's high school. So I'm seeing connections to a lot of similarities, coincidences, serendipity, not sure why. And so I set up the interview. Literally, I love this story. I was working working at a Taco Bell during the day, and then at night working at the CBS affiliate. So I literally set up the interview. They had me be the assignment editor, go and make the call. So I called Maurice's, I believe his brother, his cousin, talked to Leonard White, the tour manager, set the interview, booked it, sitting in the office at Taco Bell. So, kind of heady stuff for
I'm just listening. I'm a
21-year-old.
Because you know what we were talking about over there earlier with some similar famous connections.
Absolutely.
And how this just started. I mean, shining star when you were that age,
12,
7,
13.
13. And here you're an adult and working, and you're getting ready to interview them now.
Well, I was setting up the interview.
Setting up the
And
interview.
it was my intention. I had tickets to go, 5 or 6 of my friends. And the next day I said, so when do we leave for the interview? They go, you're not going.
Oh, okay.
I said, why? And I said, well, you're not insured by the station. I said, well, I'll meet you at the back door. I'm going to the concert. No. So several times I've had the opportunity to meet them and was either denied or, unbeknownst to me as to why. And another time, my ex-wife, this was when we were dating way back in probably 1984, 85 in Denver, and they weren't touring. They had split up for several years. And she and I were eating at a Fuddruckers. And Philip Bailey and his wife and his kids were having lunch that day. And she said, go over and talk to him. I said, I'm not going to interrupt him. But it was that knowledge of what they do and what they're about. It wasn't so much meeting them. It was just a reminder to keep on doing what I'm doing.
Yes.
Which, at the time, I was a nightclub disc jockey. So.
Yeah.
But as time went on, and I realized this morning talking to you that it's not so much if you meet somebody that you respect, it's if you believe they provide a vision for your life, those are reminders to carry on the vision, not necessarily to meet that person.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, exactly.
And then, as we all do, if we don't listen to God's word or his voices, the voice in your head, which you think you may be going crazy hearing, if you don't listen to it, you tend to get off the path you should be on. And I did that for several years, and that kind of brings us to probably the last 5 or 6 months. My girlfriend and I, we had moved back to Denver, because I'm born and raised there, as I mentioned, and take care of my mom. And that was 2006. Well, she died at the end of 2006, and we just moved back in December.
You're in Shreveport.
And
Louisiana, yeah.
heard a voice back in October, because I just found out my dad had passed away in October. And then on our way back, we had one of our 2 dogs die in the moving truck on the way. So a lot of interesting challenges. Yeah. And because God spoke to me probably in October, November. We had to give a 60-day notice for our apartment. I just looked at her and I said, it's time to go home. Now, I was born and raised in Denver, but I said, let's go home.
Yeah. And the Spirit had told you to move.
And it said, you're going to get back into acting. You're going to get back into writing.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm 54 years old.
Yeah. Come on.
What you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we came back, and I'm like, I had an agent when we left, didn't have an agent, hadn't acted or performed in probably 8 years.
Yeah.
And I was sitting, going through Craigslist and making phone calls, emailing people, hey, of any plays, any movies. Yeah. And I said, Lord, this is about 2 weeks after we'd been back.
Yeah.
I said, Lord, I need a sign. I said, you said
what
this is what I'm doing. I'm not sure if we're ready to do that. And I had been looking at Craigslist, and the That's My Wife play came up. Now, mind you, it had been posted on the 12th of December, and this was the 19th, and I've been looking every single day.
Okay.
Did not see it.
But it was there, but you didn't. Okay.
Asked God to give me a sign, and then I saw it. And the average person would go, whatever, coincidence, but it's not coincidence. And in particular, my worldview, and I mentioned it to Stanley Blackshear when Maurice White passed away, that People think I'm a little odd guy because my worldview comes from that man, and another guy I have great respect for growing up was Walt Frazier, guard for the Knicks, just a great man. He's had some things go through his life, but along the way, people that have influenced me have moved me to the next stage in my life.
Yes.
And we had so many jokes. We had probably more laughs about the cast of That's My Wife.
And so when you saw that, so you called them, and then you, of course, ended up in the play.
Called them, got an audition probably in the next 2 days, and I read maybe 3 or 4 lines, and Pastor Blacksher said, "You're who we want. You're exactly what we're looking for."
Because you moved here, God, I need a sign, but you listened. And you moved on your listening.
Absolutely.
Which is sometimes not always easy to do. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back with the last few minutes of Mr. Crates. I wish we had more time. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Deborah with Has God Heard From You Today? I'm spreading the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more. If you have a testimony and you're not ashamed to tell it, call me. Let's encourage others. Having a relationship with God is truly personal. Has God heard from you today?
Looking for a new and innovative way to spread the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more? Then log on to hasgodheardfromyoutoday.org, and without saying a word, you can become a walking witness. Just wearing these t-shirts spreads the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more. Has God been good to you? Tell it at hasgodheardfromyoutoday.org. The question is, has God heard from you today?
We're going to get right back with Mr. Crates, Brad, and the main points that I want the audience to hear because of the program. You were previously in Colorado. You heard the voice, Holy Spirit saying it's time to go home.
Time to go home. My daughter's going to graduate high school next year, and she lives in Minden. My girlfriend's parents are not getting any younger, and came back, and we were talking before the show, Tyler Perry. You've had some instances regarding Mr. Perry.
If I tell you all, wow, but you weren't supposed to tell that. It was his agent. It wasn't Tyler Perry. It was his agent. But we just gonna see what God's gonna do.
Absolutely. The reason I mentioned his.
What's beautiful is maybe you were supposed to mention that because it wouldn't have never come out of me. So.
Well, there you go.
Hey, God knows what He's doing. Come on.
Well, the gratitude that I have for being in That's My Wife as a play. We're in the process of shooting the movie. So we're doing location shooting, and I've only got 2 scenes, but Tyler Perry has gotten word about it and wants to see it, wants to see the finished product, and
of yours?
That's My Wife.
Now see how awesome that is? Now see, I'm getting chills right here. Come on.
And, somebody that powerful.
So that's why you were kind of looking at me when I'm saying the connection I received, and then see how God is awesome, isn't He? Come on.
It's just a matter of listening to the little mileposts along your life that things are put in your path for a reason. Always to learn from them. What not to do, what to do. And my biggest thing that I'd like to give the viewers that if you hear something, get out of your own way. Let God drive. Just, hold the wheel of your life, but don't overpower what you're doing because he knows what you're doing, even if you don't think it's going very well.
Yes.
He knows where the path's going. You don't.
Yeah.
So if you can just keep your mind and your ears open, probably your mouth closed a little bit more often. I think we all should learn from that.
Let's repeat that one again about the mouth closed a little bit and listening to him. Stress that to him because I want them to know it's. I can't sit here and say this has been easy for me. It gets easier.
Absolutely.
But the weight is my biggest thing, and then having to step out on faith. That hasn't been easy for me because I like to see what I'm doing, but boy, has he taught me a lesson.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wake up in the morning now. What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
And the key is having an open heart. And sometimes that's not as easy as we would like it to be. And it sounds kind of trite, but if it's not open, you're probably going to go down a path that he doesn't want you to and may not be beneficial for you. So, patience with his vision.
Oh, patience with, what did you do the little thing with the note thing? Okay, just know I'm
She had
doing
said
it.
something earlier, and I just kind of wrote it down as a little note, put it away.
Yeah, put it right. Patience with the vision.
Absolutely.
That's powerful. That's powerful. In these last few seconds, because I see that it's time, say something again to the audience. It's been a pleasure to have you
Thank
here.
you. I've enjoyed being here.
And if there was one last statement that you would give the listening audience, what would it be?
I just want to say, keep your heart open, and if you're not following God or not talking to God on a daily basis, just start. I mean, you can only start from where you're at. If you listen and follow it, you don't always have to know where the path's going, as long as you know what you feel in your heart. That's what matters.
That's beautiful. You heard that from Mr. Brad Crates, who's here with us today. Such a blessing to have you here. And
Blessed to be here.
I know we're going to stay in touch because God connects some people for different reasons. And even
Absolutely.
though we don't know right now, we know that there's a connection. We thank you all for tuning in. Be ready for us next week. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Wow. Thank you for tuning in to Has God Heard From You today. We ask that you tune into us each Wednesday for inspiring testimonies and more. We're not here to tell you that going through is easy. We're here to tell you that if you believe in God and you have accepted Jesus as your personal Savior, then you have His word, you have His promise that He will never leave you nor forsake you. Has God heard from you today?
Yes, God has heard from me today.
If you would like to share your testimony or advertise your business or an upcoming event on this program, please call 318-222-2954. Also, visit our website at www.hasgodheardfromyoutoday.org.